All right, guys, let's get right into it today. We are going to be making like a recipe for Valentine's Day, something that's super easy and super simple that you either can do with your significant other or you can do with your kids. You're gonna start out with 2 cups of lukewarm water, 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast, a pinch of sugar, and let it set for 5 minutes. Once you've let it set for 5 minutes, we're gonna hit it with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, that good olive oil. And then after you do the 2 tablespoons of olive oil, you're going to hit it with a pinch of salt. After that pinch of salt, you're going to do 5 1/4 cup flour. I will say this recipe does take a lot of flour. And guys, you could also use just a store-bought pizza crust that was already made, or the ones that come in the cans, like whatever works for you, whatever kind of date night you're trying to have, or like whatever you're trying to do with your kids. Like, do what makes you happy. This making pizza dough is what makes me happy, so that's what I did. And then you are just gonna put your dough hook down in there and watch the flour fly. I have never had any luck keeping my flour inside the bowl. I do think that my KitchenAid mixer, my speeds are off, if that makes any sense. I feel like my 1 speed doesn't do 1 speed anymore, but again, I also have 5 cups of flour in there. But you'll just let the dough hook knead your dough until it's no longer sticky and sticking to the sides. They say once it is no longer sticky or sticking to the sides, that you're gonna kick your speed up to medium and let it go for 5 minutes. I tried that, and here was my experience. I totally almost destroyed my KitchenAid mixer bowl. It was a panicky moment, but we survived. I will say after that, though, that I was done and decided I was just gonna hand knead the rest. So I just put some flour down and then kneaded for about 2 or 3 minutes. I am not a professional kneader, as you can tell. I'm not really for sure, what you're supposed to do. I threw in some of these moves, like the little knuckle using and pushing over. So it, dough felt good, I guess. So, and then once you kind of wrap up and finishing on kneading that dough a little bit, you're going to want to form it into a nice little ball. And then once you get that ball formed, you're going to take some olive oil spray, and in a bowl, I just chose to use my stand mixer. You just spray it down with that olive oil. You're going to put your dough back in there, and then you're going to cover it with some saran wrap. So I use cling wrap, because I don't use it very often. I've had the same roll for probably a year. This stuff does not cling. Maybe I'm using it wrong, or I don't know how to use cling wrap, but I don't know. I can never get it to cling ever. It drives me literally insane. But yeah. So then you just let it set for 2 hours and rise. I have a proof oven on my bottom of my double electric oven, and so I usually turn the proof on and let it set there for 2 hours. This is your cleaning motivation, to always clean in between. That way it's not so much at the end. Then we're moving on to the cake. Guys, I just did a box cake. You have to give yourself grace. If you're making something homemade, don't always make everything homemade. It can take a long time and a lot of cleanup that way. So this was kind of my nice little easy thing that I could do for myself. So I'm just using this box cakes mix. We're gonna put in the eggs. And then after the eggs, I think it was 1/2 cup of vegetable oil and then a whole cup of water, but I substituted water for milk. I usually always do that, and I usually always use whole milk. I feel like it gives it a much denser taste, but that could totally just be me. Then once you get everything into your bowl, you can either hand mix or you can use a machined hand mixer. I always use the electric hand mixer just because I have read places that like the more air you can get into the cake, the fluffier a cake is. I don't know how true that actually is, but I tend to see a difference in my cakes whenever I do it this way instead of mixing it by hand. And guys, this is where I made another huge mistake. I should have split this recipe in half and made like 2 heart cakes, but I didn't. I just put all of that into one heart cake tin. And you know what? Honestly, whenever I first put it all in there, I don't know like why it didn't cross my mind that cake pan was too full, but it didn't. It never did. I just was like, yeah, I'm gonna just bake all of this at one time. So saying that, this cake is supposed to go into the oven at 325 degrees for 33 minutes. I put my cake in the oven and it baked for an hour before it actually was baked all the way through, and I ended up browning the top and the edges really bad because of it, but I fixed it in the end. Okay, so it's been 2 hours. That dough has doubled in size. You're just gonna punch it down a little bit. You're gonna pull it out of your bowl and then knead it a little more. Once you get it nice and kneaded, it doesn't have to be a lot of kneading or anything like that. You're just gonna kind of wanna get it into a shape of some sort and as even as possible. I never get it even on the sides, no matter how hard I try. And then I always use this to measure. It's 5 inches, so usually give or take an inch, and I'll try to do 2 inches across. And again, it doesn't matter how accurate I'm trying to be, the middle part always comes out thicker than the sides. You split them up, and then I go ahead and do the 2 sides first and get those into their dough balls, for lack of a better word, I guess. Get them in their shape. There we go. We'll use shape. And then that way I can tell the middle's definitely bigger. So then I'll cut chunks out and then add it to the other 2, just trying to get them as close to even as possible, because you don't want to have a super bready pizza. And then after that, they're gonna go back into the fridge. I use a glass container with a lid, and then I store them overnight. So this is the next day. This is what I love about this recipe, is that you can get all of that ready the night before and then, make it 2 parts. And so I didn't have to do all of it in one night. And so now I'm finishing up. So as you can tell, I burned the cake a little bit, especially on the edges. And so I'm just cutting off the top where it's burned at, and then I'm going to ice this cake. As you can tell, you can see my little helpers all around and dogs moving around. Oh, and Ethan, he needed a slice. I thought that was kind of funny. But this is how I fix that. If I ever burn something, I just cut the burnt pieces off and just keep going with it. And it tasted fine. And then we're gonna put some icing on this cake. I just picked out some pink icing that had pink frosting. I thought it was very Valentine's Day-ish. And I did not realize how many times Emsley stole little fingerfuls of icing until I'm watching this now. So nose on the cake. Explains where she got that sugar rush later. A sprinkle them all around. And then now we're just adding on the sprinkles that came with the frosting. And guys, this was it was a fun activity we all got to do together, and I didn't have to stress about making the cake myself. Look at those cute little hands. Oh, I didn't notice her lick her hand either. Oh, isn't that mom life? It's a good thing we're the only ones eating this cake. All right. And then it's cleaning time. And I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of motivation to get out there and clean. And then this is life. This is the stove. No matter how well I try to get it cleaned off, it always looks like this. And I had about 10 minutes before I needed to, do laundry. I can't remember what I was doing. But I wanted to show you guys real life. And I wish I could clean it that fast. That would be fantastic. so nice and cleaned afterwards. You know, it's not perfect, but at least it's better. And if anybody can help me with the smudges, like I have like the black stainless steel and it always leaves smudges. Like no matter what I clean it with, it drives me insane. Please leave me a comment or suggestion on how to fix that. I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so obviously you can use store-bought pizza sauce. I decided to like make my own. It's super easy. It's a 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. Get those bad boys in there. And then it's a teaspoon of basil. Not a teaspoon, a tablespoon of basil and a tablespoon of oregano. And then I also sometimes I'll add salt to it, just depending on like the tomato sauce itself after I've like tasted it with the seasonings. I didn't tonight, it was just fine. And then you also hit it with some olive oil. And then just mix it together. Like I said, guys, that's super easy and simple. Okay, and then you just form your dough into whatever shape of a pizza that you want. If you wanted to, you could do a cute heart, you know, for Valentine's Day, you know, or squares, any shapes. Like I said, this is a fun activity that you can do with your loved one, or if you want to do with your kids. It would also be a great learning activity. Maybe you could make letters with the pizza dough, or just be creative. So for tonight's pizzas, we chose to do pepperoni, cheese, and then a barbecue meatball. So for this recipe, you put all of your sauce and your toppings on first, and then you cook it. I use turkey pepperoni. Nobody in my family has noticed the difference. They don't look any different, and to me, they don't taste any different. For all I know, they could market it as turkey pepperoni and it actually be regular pepperoni, and I don't know. So, but we really like it. And then this is the second one. So instead of the sauce, we're putting that barbecue sauce down. I use Sweet Baby Ray's like original barbecue sauce. I will say that looks like a lot, but I actually think I went a little too light on the sauce and should have done more. Now, you may think that I'm crazy for the amount of meatballs that I put on this pizza, but my kids love meatballs, like love them to death. This is by far their favorite pizza. And so I try to cram as many on there because they usually only eat like one slice. So whatever I can get them to eat is a plus for me. And then the last one is the cheese pizza. And so you literally just put sauce on it. And this is what everything looks like. You're going to put these bad boys in a 450-degree oven for 16 minutes. I will break my 16 minutes up and do 8 minutes. And then I will turn my pizzas, and then in my top oven, which you're getting ready to see, I will switch those two pizzas. So I will turn them and then switch them so they cook evenly. And then once they get done cooking, after that 16 minutes, you're going to hit it with the next set of like your cheese toppings. And so for the cheese pizza, it's literally just cheese. And then for like the pepperoni and the barbecue pizza with the meatballs, you can actually add more toppings at this time. So I usually add that layer of cheese, and then I will go back to the pepperoni pizza and the barbecue pizza and add more of the toppings again. And then this is what they look like. You just put them in the oven for 3 minutes to let the cheese melt. And this is the finished product. Guys, this is something that's just super easy and simple to do for Valentine's Day. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.